My name is Sanika and I'm from Ashoka University. Mr. President, you would agree that merely having female representation in the parliament is not enough to ensure security for women. So how do you plan to implement your plans of action to make France a more secure space for women, not just of France, but those who are going to France for maybe education or work and employment?
Look, first of all, we made a great change thanks to the elections in June. We changed in depth the parliament because my party and some of these representatives are in the delegations, these new members of parliament, but we had almost 50% of our candidates who were ladies, which is brand new. Because before this election, it was something like around 20%. So that's a huge change. But change in terms of parliament and political landscape, obviously half of the government is composed by women. You're right, it's not sufficient. We took a series of decisions during the past months for France in order to improve equality and to fight against this violence, as you mentioned. Because both of them are due to the same phenomenon, which is a sort of the arrogance of the hegemony. And when male were used basically to have the unique place, it became sort of normalcy to have unacceptable behaviors. And basically to be unacceptable in the society. And what should be unacceptable was become progressively more or less acceptable, or at least not commented. So first of all, our society decided to change, I have to say. People decided to speak. That's a huge, that's a global change and a global phenomenon. But that's huge because speaking is the best threat vis-à-vis people when they are violent, in the family or outside the family. Second, we took very tough decisions, and we will pass in the coming weeks a new law in order to create basically new rules and new regulation, and increase punishment and very tough decisions against violent people vis-à-vis women. In the family, with specific rules because we protect young people in the family, which was not the case. It was supposed to be the case, but we increased basically the toolkit in order to protect. But outside the family as well, i.e. in transportation, in the street, we created new penalties and new situations by law in order to be in a situation to put very strong penalties against those who behave inappropriately. Third, I think for this situation, that's a huge change of mindset as well. Obviously, it's to condemn violence and to be very tough vis-à-vis these violences to protect women in the society. But much more than that is to say, to give the same level of opportunities. We have a very good level of education of women in my country. That's a global fight, and I can revert on it if there is other if you have other questions about this issue. But in terms of education, it's fine. But we have some bias. For instance, when you go to some skills, some sectors, you have a sort of auto-limitation by women. They don't want to go into certain areas of economy. Becoming an engineer in France is much more for males than for female, which is totally crazy. So we have to change representations. We have to progress in that direction. Second, it means that we have to change within the corporates and within the societies in terms of equality of wages and equality of opportunities. So we passed new law, that's in the law we will pass as well. We will increase basically the penalties against some behaviors, and we will promote the right situation. But the best way to change his mindset as well for that is the name and shame approach. And we will name and shame, the worst people in the classroom and the worst corporates in terms of inequality, which is the best way to proceed. So we have a sort of global plan, as you see, and we are delivering. We made a lot of progress. We will pass this law, but that's a mobilization of the of the whole government and the whole society as well. Because it's unfair, because it's unjustified, but because as well, that's a huge loss in terms of opportunities for the overall society. You don't innovate, you don't progress, you don't create value the same scale and with the same intensity when you don't have equal opportunities for men and women. You have evidence for that.